Have you ever felt the weight of silence pressing down on you in a crowded room? You laugh when others laugh, nod when others nod, shape your face into the mask they expect, and yet, deep inside, you feel the quiet ache of betrayal. Not betrayal by them, but betrayal by yourself. You wonder how much of what you present to the world is real, and how much is just a carefully crafted costume stitched together from fear, approval, and convenience. You carry yourself as though everything is fine, but there are moments, those rare and piercing moments, when you catch a glimpse of your reflection and it feels almost foreign. You stare at yourself and whisper inwardly, "Who are you really?" That voice, faint and relentless, haunts you in the stillness of night. It demands honesty, even when honesty feels dangerous. The truth terrifies you, because if you were to drop the mask, if you were to reveal the raw, unfiltered essence of yourself, what would happen? Would people turn away? Would you lose the warmth of belonging that has kept you safe? Would you be left standing alone, naked in the cold glare of judgment? Imagine this. You speak your mind without rehearsing. You act on your deepest convictions without compromise. You refuse to bend yourself into shapes that please others. At first, there is a surge of liberation. It feels like air filling your lungs after years of suffocation. But then, almost immediately, comes the cost. Some smile less warmly at you. Some whisper behind your back. Opportunities that once flowed easily begin to dry up. Comfort fades. Approval slips through your fingers. And you begin to realize that to be real is not to be safe. Isn't that the paradox? The world tells you to be yourself, yet punishes you the moment you actually dare to live without disguise. You are praised for honesty as long as it doesn't disturb the comfort of others. You are applauded for confidence as long as it doesn't threaten the fragile structures of conformity. Authenticity, they say, is admirable until it makes them uncomfortable. Then suddenly, it is reckless, arrogant, even dangerous. So here you stand, caught between two prisons. One is the prison of masks, suffocating, artificial, but socially rewarded. The other is the prison of truth, liberating, vital, but costly. Which cage would you rather endure? Which loss would you rather suffer? The loss of comfort or the loss of your soul? There is no easy answer. Every instinct in you longs for safety, for belonging, for the reassurance of familiar smiles. But another instinct, older and deeper, calls you toward something fiercer. It whispers that there is more to life than fitting in. It tells you that to trade your truth for acceptance is to sell your birthright for scraps of approval. And yet, stepping into that truth feels like stepping into fire. You wonder then, is there strength hidden in that fire? Could it be that what feels like loss is actually a form of gain? That by surrendering comfort, you inherit a different kind of power, the power to stand tall, even when alone, to live with a spine instead of a mask? But at what cost? To be authentic means you must confront exile, discomfort, rejection. To be authentic means giving up the soft cushions of conformity and walking barefoot on the sharp stones of truth. And here, in this tension, lies the great question that will not leave you alone. Is it better to live comfortably in a lie or uncomfortably in the truth? The weight of this question presses on you, refusing to be ignored. And as you linger in its gravity, you begin to sense that the roots of this dilemma stretch far deeper than personal choice. Something hidden shapes your fear, your longing, your silence. Something ancient, psychological, and philosophical has woven its threads into your very identity. And to understand why authenticity feels so costly, you must first dig into the unseen forces that keep you bound. Why does it hurt so much to be real? Why does stepping into your truth feel like walking against a storm that never stops blowing? You sense that authenticity should be natural, effortless after all. Isn't it simply being who you are? And yet, the moment you try, you collide with invisible walls, subtle pressures, unspoken rules that bend you back into conformity. This is not an accident. From the moment you are a child, you are taught without words that masks are safer than nakedness. Think of your earliest memories, the times you said something honest and an adult's face darkened with disapproval. The moments when your tears were dismissed as weakness, when your joy was labeled too much, when your anger was punished instead of understood. Each reaction planted a seed of caution in you. Slowly, you learned to trade truth for approval, expression for adaptation. Psychologists call this process social conditioning. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Why terrifying? Because you have been conditioned to believe that parts of you are unacceptable. You buried them beneath layers of politeness, productivity, and performance. And now, whenever they stir within you, you feel the tremor of fear. If I show this, will I still be loved? You live in a culture that reinforces this fear at every turn. Society praises those who play their roles well. You are rewarded not for depth, but for efficiency. Not for truth, but for likability. The system doesn't want your raw authenticity. It wants your compliance. And so the machinery of education, work, and social life teaches you that safety lies in blending in shaping yourself into what is expected. But here's the paradox. The more you conform, the more you lose the very thing that makes you alive. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called it the sickness unto death, the despair of not being yourself. You wear the mask so long that you forget what your face even looks like. You live among people, yet feel profoundly alone because no one truly sees you. They only see the role you've perfected. And yet, despite the despair, you cling to the mask. Why? Because deep inside your nervous system, conformity feels like survival. Neuroscience shows that rejection triggers the same brain regions as physical pain. To be excluded feels like dying. That's why you smile when you want to cry, why you agree when you want to rebel, why you nod when your soul screams no. On a primal level, you are terrified of exile. Think of how often you silence yourself in small ways. You soften your voice in meetings. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You avoid saying the unpopular truth. Each act seems insignificant, but together they form a cage, a golden cage, lined with approval, but a cage nonetheless. The problem runs even deeper. Your very sense of identity is shaped by what others mirror back to you. Charles Horton Cooley called it the looking glass self. You see yourself through the eyes of others. When they approve, you feel worthy. When they disapprove, you feel broken. Over time, your self-image is less a reflection of truth and more a reflection of expectation. You become, in effect, a prisoner of perception. Is it any wonder, then, that authenticity feels dangerous? To break free from masks is not merely a social risk, it threatens the fragile scaffolding of your identity. If you stop being what others expect, who are you? And here lies the hidden root. You have been trained to believe that comfort is safety and that approval is worth more than truth. Every system around you reinforces this belief. Advertisements tell you who you should be to be loved. Workplaces tell you which parts of yourself to highlight and which to hide. Even friendships can demand conformity, subtly pressuring you to stay within the boundaries of what is familiar. So you find yourself torn. On one side lies truth, burning inside you, demanding to be spoken. On the other side lies comfort, soft and warm, but suffocating. To choose authenticity means to risk being misunderstood, judged, or rejected. To choose conformity means to betray the pulse of your own soul. And yet, if you remain blind to this dilemma, if you continue pretending that masks cost nothing, you risk something even greater. Because the more you silence your truth, the more it begins to rebel from within. The shadow grows restless. The suppressed self begins to whisper louder, demanding to be heard. You sense it already, that tension in your chest, that quiet fatigue of pretending. It's not simply personal discomfort. It's the echo of something deeper, the erosion of your very being. And if left unchallenged, this erosion does not stop at you. It seeps into the very fabric of society, shaping the world in hidden, devastating ways. Which leads to the next realization. Authenticity is not just a personal struggle. It has unseen consequences that ripple through culture, politics, relationships, and the future itself. You may believe that your silence affects only you, that wearing masks is merely a private compromise. But look closer, and you'll see the hidden cost that spreads far beyond your own skin. Every time you bite back your truth, you don't just diminish yourself. You contribute to a culture where pretense becomes the norm and reality is quietly exiled. Think of a workplace where no one dares to voice dissent. Outwardly, everything appears smooth, efficient, professional. But beneath the polished surface lies stagnation. Innovation withers, ideas suffocate, mediocrity thrives. People nod in agreement, not because they believe, but because they are afraid to stand out. What begins as personal caution transforms into collective paralysis. The same pattern unfolds in families. A father hides his vulnerabilities, convinced that strength means silence. A mother swallows her frustrations, fearing that honesty will disrupt harmony. Children learn to mimic approval rather than express themselves. And soon, generations inherit the unspoken rule: do not be real, or you will not be loved. The home becomes a theater where roles are played to perfection, but no one feels fully seen. Even entire societies are built upon this hidden agreement of inauthenticity. Leaders speak in calculated tones, never revealing what they truly believe, because the cost of honesty feels too high. Citizens echo slogans, not convictions, because it is safer to conform than to question. Over time, truth itself becomes dangerous. A culture that punishes authenticity produces not just false individuals, it produces a false world. You've felt this before, haven't you? That strange hollowness when you scroll through curated images on social media. Everyone smiling, everyone thriving, everyone perfect. Yet beneath the surface lies anxiety, loneliness, despair. This collective mask-making creates a distorted reality where no one can tell what is true anymore. And in this distortion, you begin to doubt even your own feelings. Am I the only one struggling? Am I broken for not fitting into the illusion? Psychology has a name for this: cognitive dissonance. You hold two conflicting realities at once: the truth you feel within and the performance demanded by the outside. To ease the discomfort, you start adjusting your perception. You convince yourself that the mask is who you really are, that the compromise is not so bad, that everyone else seems fine, so you must be fine too. Slowly, the line between illusion and reality blurs. But the consequences of this dissonance are brutal. Depression rises because the soul suffocates under the weight of lies. Anxiety grows because you are constantly scanning the room, calculating what version of yourself is safest. Burnout spreads, not merely from overwork, but from the exhausting labor of pretending. And there is a deeper tragedy still. When truth is silenced long enough, it becomes invisible. Whole societies can forget what authenticity even looks like. Friedrich Nietzsche warned, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. But if illusions dominate for too long, truth itself begins to decay like a muscle never used. This is why you feel the quiet urgency in your chest, the sense that something is deeply wrong, even when you cannot name it. It is the weight of a world built on masks pressing down on you. And the longer you remain in this world unquestioningly, the more you risk losing the ability to distinguish between your authentic voice and the echo of conformity. And here is the most dangerous consequence of all. A person who loses authenticity loses power. Not the shallow power of titles, possessions, or applause, but the deeper power of presence, conviction, and inner freedom. When you betray your truth, you weaken your spine. You become easily swayed, easily manipulated, easily controlled. And societies made of such individuals are fragile, vulnerable to deception, ripe for domination. Do you see now why authenticity feels so costly? Because it threatens not just your comfort, but the entire structure of a world built on pretense. The moment you step into truth, you expose the illusion, and illusions fight back. They call you reckless, arrogant, dangerous, not because you are wrong, but because your reality threatens the game they need you to play. This realization is terrifying, but it also stirs something fierce within you. For if the mask drains you of power, then perhaps the opposite is also true. Perhaps by facing the discomfort, by walking away from conformity, by daring to lose the safety of approval, you can begin to recover the strength that has always been yours. And so the question deepens. How do you rebel against a system so ingrained, so invisible, so persistent? How do you break free from a prison whose bars are built into your very psychology? The answer demands nothing less than rebellion. You feel it now, the pull of rebellion. That quiet voice within you, long suppressed, begins to rise with new urgency. It tells you that you cannot keep living as a ghost of yourself, that wearing the mask may protect you, but it also kills you. And so the question sharpens into a blade. Will you obey the machinery of conformity? Or will you risk everything to reclaim your truth? To break free, you must first overturn a belief so deeply ingrained it feels like the law of nature. The belief that comfort is safety. This is the lie that binds you. Comfort is not safety, comfort is sedation. It numbs your hunger for truth. It dulls the edge of your soul. It tricks you into believing that survival is enough. But survival without authenticity is not life, it is half-life, shadow life. Think of the figures in history who shook the world. Socrates, who chose hemlock over silence. Galileo, who faced the wrath of the church to say the earth moves. Nelson Mandela, who endured prison rather than betray his vision of freedom. They lost comfort. They lost approval. Some lost even their lives. And yet, in that loss, they became unshakable. Their rebellion was not loud defiance alone. It was the radical act of refusing to wear the mask when the world demanded it. This is the first step of rebellion. You must accept the cost. You cannot cling to both authenticity and approval. You cannot demand both freedom and comfort. To live truthfully is to embrace discomfort as a teacher, exile as a companion, rejection as proof that you are no longer enslaved. But here is the paradox. The moment you stop running from discomfort, its power weakens. The sting of rejection fades when you no longer depend on approval to define your worth. The burn of solitude turns into a forge where your spirit hardens. And slowly, you begin to realize that what felt like punishment is, in fact, liberation. The second step of rebellion is the reclamation of your inner sovereignty. For too long, you have let others define your value. You have measured yourself in likes, promotions, nods of agreement. But sovereignty begins the moment you declare, I am the measure of my own worth. This is not arrogance. It is responsibility. It means you no longer outsource your soul to the fragile judgments of others. This shift is counterintuitive because everything around you urges dependency. Consumer culture thrives on your insecurity. Political systems thrive on your obedience. Social systems thrive on your conformity. To reclaim sovereignty is to unplug from these illusions, to stand naked in your own truth, and to say, I would rather be alone with my reality than loved for my performance. The third step is to build a new value system. You cannot simply tear off the mask. You must also create a foundation strong enough to sustain your authenticity. This foundation comes from values not given by the crowd, but chosen by your soul. integrity over approval, truth over comfort, courage over conformity. These are not abstract ideals, they are daily practices. Every time you speak honestly when silence would be easier, you strengthen this foundation. Every time you act on conviction rather than convenience, you add another stone. And here's where the forbidden truth reveals itself. Authenticity, though it strips you of comfort, arms you with power. Not the brittle power of dominance or wealth, but the resilient power of alignment. When your words match your soul, when your actions mirror your convictions, you become untouchable. No one can manipulate you with approval because you no longer hunger for it. No one can silence you with rejection because you have already embraced solitude. No one can buy you because you are no longer for sale. This is the rebellion. To live in such radical alignment that you become a threat to the systems built on pretense. And though they may resist you, though they may call you difficult, reckless, or dangerous, they cannot ignore the force of someone who has reclaimed themselves. You stand taller. Your presence carries weight. Your voice resonates with something deeper than persuasion. It resonates with truth. People may not always like you, but they cannot easily dismiss you. And some, those secretly longing for their own freedom, will be drawn to your courage, just as sparks are drawn to flame. And yet, even this is not the end. For rebellion is not the final destination. Beyond rebellion lies something greater still, a realization so profound that it does not merely free you from masks, but redefines what it means to live at all. You have rebelled. You have torn off the masks. You have walked through the fire of rejection. And now, you stand at the edge of a deeper horizon, where the final realization waits. This is not about rebellion anymore. It is not about proving yourself to the world, nor about defying the chains of conformity. It is about discovering the ultimate truth that has always been hidden beneath the struggle. Authenticity is not a weapon. It is a way of being. Here is the paradox revealed. The power of authenticity does not come from conquering others, but from no longer needing to. When you live truthfully, you stop playing the endless game of comparison and performance. You stop chasing the fragile approval of crowds, because you have found something more enduring, the alignment between who you are within and who you are without. This alignment is freedom, real freedom, not the shallow freedom of doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but the profound freedom of living without division, of waking each morning without the burden of pretense, of speaking words that taste like truth instead of ash. And with this freedom comes a quiet strength. You no longer tremble at the thought of rejection because you have already chosen truth over acceptance. You no longer fear solitude because you have discovered that authenticity is never truly alone. It carries within it a communion with life itself. You begin to see that the approval of others was always a borrowed currency, but the approval of your own soul is wealth without end. This is the ultimate power, not dominance, not fame, not control, but presence. A man who is real does not need to shout, does not need to posture, does not need to beg for validation. His very being speaks. His silence carries weight. His gaze awakens something in others. His words cut through illusion like a blade through fog. Why? Because they are true. And truth resonates in a way that no performance ever can. The cost of authenticity remains comfort, is lost, conformity is abandoned, safety is surrendered. But in place of these, you inherit something far greater, a life that belongs to you. Every joy is genuine because it is not borrowed. Every sorrow is real because it is not hidden. Every step is yours because it is not dictated by the crowd. And here lies the deepest revelation. Authenticity is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what you have always been. Beneath the masks, beneath the conditioning, beneath the fears, you are already whole. The rebellion was not to create yourself, but to uncover yourself. And in this uncovering, You see that what you feared losing, belonging, worth, power, was never truly given by others. It was waiting within you all along. Now look around. The world is still full of masks, still full of illusions. But something in you has shifted. You no longer see the false smiles and curated lives with envy. You see them with compassion. You know the weight they carry because you carried it too. And perhaps your authenticity, your willingness to live without disguise, becomes a mirror that awakens others. Not all will accept it. Some will resist. But some will feel the tremor of recognition in their own hearts, and they will begin their journey. This is how authenticity ripples outward, not by preaching, not by forcing, but by being. Your very existence becomes a call for others to lay down their masks, to risk the fire, to taste the freedom of being real. And so you arrive at the final, most powerful realization. Authenticity is not a sacrifice at all. It is an exchange. You give up comfort, yes. You give up conformity, yes. But in return, you receive life. Not half-life, not survival, not shadow existence. Life in its raw, untamed fullness. Life with a spine, with breath, with truth. And now, as you stand in this clarity, the question that once haunted you transforms. No longer is it better to live comfortably in a lie or uncomfortably in the truth? The question becomes, how could you ever again choose the lie, knowing what the truth feels like? The screen fades to black and the silence lingers. You are left not with answers, but with a deeper call, a call to face yourself, to risk everything, to live real. And perhaps, as you sit with this, you realize that the unfinished searching is the point. For authenticity is not a destination, but a continual act of courage, a daily birth into truth. The final scene is not an ending, but a beginning. The beginning of you, unmasked, unafraid, unstoppable.